Good morning and welcome to Namaste Today, a sacred way to begin your weekday. I'm Christopher Witecki, your humble host and spiritual life coach. This audio blogcast is for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017. Welcome back, my friend. Namaste. Expect the unexpected today, my friend and earthly neighbor. Step 4 rules the day. And that means there are breakdowns followed by breakthroughs scheduled for the next 24 hours. In today's zodiac weather, I'll give you the details on what you can expect. And later in our tea time, continuing with the Psychic 101 series, it's now time to talk about the Psychic Zone. But first, let's take a look at today's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017. And my global forecast for the Earth is overcast with a good chance of storms. Step 4, I belong, Pisces rules the day, and the moon is crossing over Pluto to kill off old emotional baggage. Let's take a look at the planets. If you feel like crap and that you don't belong today, you are right in the right vibration. It is going to be a little out of this world. This is step 4 Pisces, which means we're going to have small breakdowns followed by breakthroughs in the next 36 hours. And the unfortunate part is you may not have seen it coming. That's the thing about Pisces energy. It is our subconscious. Many of my clients are reporting very dark or fearful dreams. And I'll say it again, be grateful it's happening in your dreams and you're dealing with it in that realm. The last thing we want to have happen is have things literally break down. But some things will break down. And if they do, this is spirit basically letting you know that this road is now a dead end. You now have to find a new route, and most likely that route is to rise above the situation. Take a more loving approach. Take the more peaceful approach. Or maybe take the non-ego approach. That's a big part of what spirituality is, the non-ego, the spiritual essence, our soul integrity. And so you may find that your own ego was running in a certain direction and it hit a wall or hit a situation, and the issue here is a breakdown due to not listening to spirit and instead allowing your ego to go too far. Either way, Sensei says this is the most turbulent it's going to get this week, and likely the most turbulent it's going to get this month. So be self-compassionate, be self-soothing, be self-nurturing, nurture your emotions. Now, emotions today actually will be a bit stronger than usual. The moon is in Capricorn. And so, although we feel weak, we're actually pretty resolute with the moon in Capricorn. In fact, that might be part of what the breakdown is. You may have certain rules around what you've allowed yourself to feel or not allowed yourself to feel. And that may be part of the equation today because the moon is going to cross Pluto during the course of the day. And that is literally the death of old emotional baggage. How it manifests sometimes is emotional release. So you might have a chance of showers. You might need a little cry. You might need a little time alone. It may be the death of an old feeling. So in other words, you might wake up with a very old feeling of how you felt when you were in your 20s or how you felt when you were a kid. And really what's happening here is the universe is saying, you don't spiritually belong in this feeling anymore. It's time for this feeling to die. But for you to recognize its death time is for you to recognize the feeling. So it must come up for you to dismiss it. And you might be feeling a lot of fears today or facing fears about being able to move ahead, to take action. There's a square going on right now that intensifies this moon crossing Pluto, and it's the square to Mars. So you might find that you can't move forward to get anything done because you have these issues of emotions. And if that's the case, I say deal with the emotions, put death to the old feelings now, and you'll likely be able to get that car started or get to move again or move forward with your projects. Now, speaking of moving forward, Mars today is crossing Uranus. Actually, it's beginning to conjunct Uranus. It'll be dead conjoining Uranus on Sunday during the solar eclipse. But now it is reaching definitely an intense degree. It's at step 18 Aries. That is the go, go, go degree of Aries. It's a Grand Master degree of Aries. So there's this strong push, we could say lack of patience, but at the same time, you might be feeling some hesitation. Mars is beginning to conjoin Uranus, which means you are probably feeling that your actions will need to step up. Now, your first impression of action stepping up probably is turning up the volume or putting up the output, turning out the output, doing more, trying harder, working harder. But what the universe is saying here is no, work less and work smarter. Stepping it up means that you get more done with less energy. And so you may feel that you're in a bit of a stalemate or not being able to move forward, not necessarily because of emotions, but because you're trying to figure out the right action and it's time to take a step up, which usually means not repeating your old behavior. So if you're contemplating repeating an old behavior or going down an old path, Sensei says you obviously want to see a movie about your karma and you're going to repeat and reenact that karma, and you'll see why stepping up was the way to go. And lastly, old Black Lilith. Black Lilith has been at step 0 for the last couple of days, but tonight, old Black Lilith moves to step 1 Sagittarius. That means as of tonight, you might start processing fears around your story. Now, fears around your story have to do with the way it's always been. It has to do with the way where you've come from. It has to do with being concerned about where this is leading, where this is ending up. It might be fears around things having enough meaning or enough purpose. But remember, fear is false evidence appearing real. If these fears start to come up, you want to face them with information, face them with light, and face them with an intention for them to go away. Most of the time, what fears need are your attention so they can go away. And quite often, fears are actually highlighting areas that you have failed to think about and failed to think through, which is often the emptiness you feel. It's your own lack of thinking and consciousness around that situation. So thinking about it, thinking about the solutions, thinking about protecting yourself, that's all you need to do. But I don't think Black Lilith and Sagittarius will be not even an ounce as dark as it was in Scorpio. So when we say facing fears, it's probably while you're eating pizza, watching Netflix, and there's a little commercial before the show starts. That's where the fears will slip in with Black Lilith in Sag, which is a good thing. So that brings me now to today's tea time. We are talking about our psychic awareness and opening up. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our daily tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is the psychic zone. Yesterday in Psychic 101 tea time, I talked about my experiences of learning and developing my psychic abilities. And at some point along my story, I realized that when my psychic eye opens, I am in some sort of zone, some sort of energy inside myself. And I describe this zone as a feeling. Whenever I have this feeling when I go into the zone, I know I can trust the information that's coming because I've developed this relationship of being in the psychic zone. Now, one of our viewers asked the question under our video as to whether a person can develop their psychic abilities. Can one develop psychically? The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, I believe it is part of our generation's awakening that we all become aware of our psychic abilities, or at least a majority of us does. And that alone, I think, is going to create tremendous peace on the planet, because when you can trust your own visions and what you pick up, you can make smarter choices. Now, it's important to note that when one sees into the future, when they get a vision or a glimpse of the future, that is the future that is currently in manifestation, or it is a possible future. It is not always the future. In fact, I always ask my guides, is this going to happen? Absolutely. And my guides will communicate back, no, that's why we're giving you this reading, is to help the client not go here. So a lot of times I can see that the client is heading down a railroad track. There's a future that's manifesting. But the whole point of having psychic vision is so that you can change the future and craft it to what you want. Now, you can't change someone else's free will. So if you see something in someone else's future, it may very well happen, unless, of course, they change it. But we can't change it. We can try to get to them. We can let them know that we're getting a bad feeling about certain things, etc., etc. And hopefully, with their free will, they will change where they're going. So what you see as a psychic intuitive is not necessarily going to happen. But the good news is I have in my own personal life, as I've awakened, I have literally, I think, avoided some catastrophes, and I have found some true gold and true wonderful things in my life because I trusted what my psychic information was telling me, and I actually used it. A lot of psychics say they can't read themselves. That's not true. You can. You can read everything that you want to know about. It's all about really crafting that ability to get in the zone, and also training yourself to not judge what you see, but to just observe and see. So today I'm going to talk about how to get in the zone, and believe it or not, the 11 steps to serious joy tell us precisely how to get in the zone. Now, the 11 steps is something that I kind of discovered in my practice over 20 years, and that is that there are steps, there is a sequence in which consciousness expands. This, of course, is in the expansion of creation. So when we create, I argue we create according to the 11 steps to serious joy. During the year, the sun moves through different steps in a different order, and that is the energy or the pattern in which God creates. So God creates in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. That's how the universe gets fed its sunshine in that order. But when one manifests an idea, from idea to reality, my understanding is it goes in the order of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or as I will go over time and time again, I protect, I love, I feel, I believe, I belong, I think, etc., etc. So the cool thing about these 11 steps is every step builds on the other. And when you isolate a step, today's step we're isolating is step 7, I sense, our psychic state of awareness, our Pisces state of awareness, you can assume that every step under step 7 is necessary for step 7 to activate. In order to have step 1, you must have step 0. In order to have step 2, you must have step 1. You always have to complete the conscious step to build up to that state of awareness. And this is part of how I do readings and how I have helped people to uncover where they're stuck. Many times people are attempting to do one step, but they haven't gone through the conscious steps before that step. So to get in the zone, there is a step checklist. And that step checklist is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One must complete steps 0 through 6 for your psychic state of awareness, step 7, to open up. And today I'm going to review those first 6 steps and tell you what I do for each of the steps in order to get into my personal psychic zone. The first step is step 0, I protect. Now this is a super crucial step. This is why I call it the hidden step, because no one even thinks about this step. But I have learned in my development of spirituality that you must actually create a sacred space for your spiritual self to open up. For some reason, God does not open unless you put a fence up, unless you build a boundary. To me, this is actually why churches and sacred monuments exist, is because we must have a sacred space, a circle, a sacred circle basically. In that circle, we talk to God. Out of that circle, we do not talk to God. Now, it's important to designate this space in your own conscious space because to connect to your spirituality, you have to technically disconnect from your reality. And if there's not a formal step 0 where you take time and space to make this space sacred, and that's what I say, this is my sacred circle, I hereby protect this circle. And that's my little way of saying to the universe, okay, this little moment here in space-time is sacred. Everything else must go. All other vibrations must go. I don't want to pick up on any of my family, any of my friends. It's just me and God in the sacred circle, and so it is. Once you take that time and space for the sacred circle in a given day, you'll find that that portal, that vortex, that circle stays open until the next day, until you've gone to sleep and wake up again. You have to open the sacred circle every day. I think that's why some religions wake up at sunset and pray every day, because they're creating a sacred circle and they're logging into spirit. If you log into spirit in the morning or as soon as you can, you will stay logged in all day and you will get spiritual text messages and all sorts of things from higher self through the day. Why? Because you made a sacred circle, because you took the time and space for spirit. And when you take the time and space for spirit, spirit takes the time and space for you in the law of reflection and the law of attraction. That's how it is in this reality. It's a big mirror system. So you must do it to have it done onto you. So that's step 0. You need a sacred space, and this can be an altar, this can be a time and space, and it can move around as long as it truly is sacred. And sacred means it's just you and God Spirit. That's it. Step 1 is I love. So after taking the sacred space, you want to go into your heart. Your heart actually is the modem that talks to everything. I know we talk about the crown chakra, but that's, I think, the radar dish that receives messages. The heart is the umbilical cord that goes to God. It is your heart. So after you have created the sacred space, you bring your heart online. You must feel your heart. And if you don't know how to feel your heart, think of someone or something that you love that makes you glow. As soon as you're glowing, boom, your heart's online, and you've brought it to the next step. So step 0, I protect. Step 1, I heart, I love. Step 2 is I feel. I feel is absolutely crucial. And what's crucial is that you bring your feelings online. The best way to bring your feelings online is to feel the love. So step 1, you love. Step 2, you feel the love. And you really want to feel the love, and Spirit knows when you're not actually feeling it, okay? So you really want to connect to the feelings that way. And the reason why feelings are important is because the psychic information actually comes through the emotional field. It comes through our feelings first, and then our mind identifies later. So to disconnect from your feelings, this is the biggest issue I see with psychics. They think it's all in the mind, but it's really grounded in emotion and vibration of emotion. One moment of a feeling can lead to 1 billion images, 1 billion words. And emotion is the ocean in which we actually read. So bringing your emotions online. Step 3, I believe. When it comes to beliefs, you have to actually believe that you are psychic, or that you can be psychic, or that this shift works. If you don't believe, if you have counter beliefs, and I'm not saying tiny little counter beliefs, or have a hard time believing, but generally speaking, if I put a gun to your head and said, what's the answer? What's your final answer? Do you believe you can talk to the other side, or don't you? The answer has to be yes. Your beliefs have to be on board with this whole thing. And you can change your beliefs, absolutely. And you can decide to change your beliefs, absolutely. But if you don't believe. Now this is, where Catholicism and other religions get in the way. People don't believe, according to their religion, that they can be psychic, and so boom, they're shut out of their state of awareness right there. Their beliefs actually shut them out. It goes from 0 to 3 and it stops. So you have to believe that this is possible and keep that door open. Step 4 is I belong. And I belong is another state of awareness that a lot of clients have a hard time with. They don't feel like they belong being a psychic. They don't feel like people will accept them as a psychic. They will feel like they won't belong in society if they accept that they're psychic. So the I belong consciousness can't really identify with being psychic and being able to listen. And because they don't feel like they belong there, even though they want to try, it gets blocked at step 4. So your heart must feel like you belong connecting to your guides. Your heart must feel like you belong talking to God. And this is where religion also screws people up, because a lot of people in the past wanted to talk to God and wanted to have direct communication, but the church told them they were peasants. They don't belong talking to God. And so belief structure led to I belong in that case, and they weren't able to see. Remember, we create our own reality. If you don't feel like you believe it, if you don't feel like it belongs in your life, then consciousness will create the reality where it's not. Step 5 is I think. And this is a big one that gets in the way because people's mind actually gets in the way. And what you want to do with your thoughts is put them on your emotions. That's my little trick of the trade. What do you want to think about? Your feelings. What does your mind want to do? It wants to listen. So you want to consciously listen and listen to your feelings. That's what you are to think about. If you think about other things, which I think is why meditation always says clear your mind, but they never tell you what to focus your mind on when you clear it. Like darkness, absence, like God, like my mind doesn't want to be clear. What do we clear it? What do we put it on? You put it on your feelings is what Sensei says, and you think about your feelings. But if your mind starts thinking about something else, you won't connect to step 7 because step 5 is incongruent with the connection. Step 6 is I receive. In other words, are you open to receive? Being open to receive means you are listening, means you're not talking. It means you are patient and you are literally waiting by the door, ready for anything that comes in. Open to receive means you're not resisting this in any way. You're not fearing it in any way. You're totally waiting for the other side to talk to you, and as soon as it does, you'll be happy. There's going to be no resistance. So being open to receive the message is step 6 and necessary to have a clear psychic channel. And then finally, with all of these 6 states in alignment, we move on to step 7, I sense. I sense stands on top of all these states. We sense based on our protection. We sense based on our heart. We sense based on our feelings. We sense based on our beliefs. We sense based on our belonging. We sense based on our thoughts. We sense based on our ability to open up or not open up. That is our sensory perception. It is reading all of that, the psychic state of awareness. And it's finding congruencies in all of them and finding things that incongruent in all of them. When you sit and you meditate on yourself, I argue you are meditating on step 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you can, you might try a little practicing today in your meditation. Try to go through the steps. Try to align the steps, and when you get to the top of that spiritual pyramid, just observe and listen. You can ask yourself a question in that state, and notice what that state feels like, because I argue that is the beginning of your zone. All right, my friend, that was a long one, but I know a good one. I'm going to put out some quality information out there before our solar eclipse on Sunday. I am holding a reading sale right now. If you're interested, this is a perfect time, especially if you want to work on opening up your psychic eye. I do that sort of work, and I customize it. You can come on down to my website at wateki.me and get more information. If you buy a 30-minute, you'll get a free 15-minute follow-up you can use anytime this year. All right, my friend. Well, I hope you have a fabulous day. Remember that I love you, and live, love, be. Live, love, be.